Hi, today I'm going to be doing a review of Castles in the Air by Christina Dodd, and there will be spoilers. So, Castles in the Air is the sequel to Candle in the Window. And if you saw my review of Candle in the Window, you'll know that this was Christina Dodd's first ever published novel. And while I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, normally it is since it is her first published novel, you can kind of forgive some of the mistakes in it. And so it's not going to be one that I'm going to reread, but, it gives you a good idea of where she came from. Now, we get to the sequel, Castles in the Air, and this deals with one of the friends that was introduced in the first book. And at first I was actually pretty interested to read it. I actually got really excited because I liked the character Raymond from the first book. And it completely disappointed me. This book, I wouldn't even recommend this book for any reason. And there are a couple of reasons why, and I'll get into those. But first, let me go over the basic premise. The main characters are Raymond and Juliana. Raymond he has sort of an honorary title, the Count of Roche. I don't know. It's French. I apologize. I don't know how to pronounce French for the most part. But anyway, he has an honorary title as a count. And his parents are super rich and have a ton of lands. And for some reason, they don't like him. They never explain exactly why his parents don't like him. His parents even show up. And it's just, they make his parents be super terrible and kind of evil, but for no good reason. It's just a plot device, and it's really not well done. But anyway, so Raymond doesn't really have a lot of money. The title is honorary. He doesn't get any incomes from that land or anything because his parents are still have a really tight grip on it. So he, as much as he doesn't really want to get married for just, for the reasons that the king tells him to, he needs incomes. And so the king has ordered him to marry Juliana, who is a widow, and she has a decent amount of land and incomes, and it's right along the border of Wales, and so they want that land to secure it in case there's an invasion. So he is willing to marry her. The king has decreed it. The king's his cousin. He can't really say no to it. But Juliana, she's been betrayed by men and she doesn't want to marry him. And so for about 2 years, she puts off marrying him, and it sort of made Raymond a laughingstock at court. So he finally decides just to go to her area and basically kidnap her and make her marry him. Because at this time, this is a medieval book. At that time, that was pretty common apparently. And so he goes in the middle of winter, and he somehow comes across her. She went to go visit the village and got caught in a snowstorm. I don't know how they met. They didn't exactly say how he managed to come across her. But he basically takes her and runs off with her and finds a cabin in the woods, and they spend the night. They don't actually do anything. She smacks him with a log, and he's like, ooh, you have some fight or whatever. But he decides that probably the best way to get through to her is to pretend that he's not Raymond. He's not, the guy who she's supposed to marry. Because she tells him pretty much her whole story about having to marry this guy, and he's like, well, apparently she doesn't like the idea of this, so I'm gonna not tell her and try to ingratiate myself with her beforehand. And the way he does this is, apparently she tells him she's waiting for a master castle builder, but hasn't been sent one yet, and so he's like, oh, well, I'm your master castle builder. I will do this, even though he doesn't really know a lot about how to build castles. But anyway, they go, and pretty quickly she finds out he's not a castle builder. There's some discrepancies, and then, of course, randomly, the actual castle builder shows up, and, well, then Raymond's like, well, my plan was to ingratiate myself, but yeah, no, I'm Raymond. I'm your husband-to-be, and so they have to get married, and she doesn't like him, and that sort of thing. But then it gets to the point where, this is where a lot of things why I don't like come in. So one of the main things, and I had a big issue with this in the first book too, there are characters who are definitely going to be the bad guys, who are evil and dicks and need to be either killed or exiled or whatever. and they don't do it. And yeah, they come back at the end, and they kidnap her daughter and kill some people. And I'm just thinking, why would you let these people go or live or whatever? They're obviously bad people, but they're sticking around because, oh no, they're not that bad, or oh yeah, he's my uncle, he's fine, you know, whatever. And it's so stupid. These characters act so stupid, and that is a big reason I don't like this. Another reason is that Raymond's character is fine for the most part, but Juliana, I hate her. I really don't like her. And I think it's because her personality is so inconsistent. She'll be super stubborn and strong one moment, and then will be so scared the next. And it won't be consistent as to when she gets scared or courageous. It's always so odd. She did get abducted 3 years prior, and wasn't raped, attempted, but wasn't raped, and you know, she fled, and it made her not trust men and everything. But the guys say, oh, she's so stubborn, and she's not really, she's a woman, so she's weak, but she doesn't act like a woman. But then I don't know how to describe it. It's terrible. Characterization of her is absolutely awful, and I hated her. The chemistry between the two of them is terrible. And normally with the chemistry with Christina Dodd's characters, it's usually fine. But for some reason in this one, it just didn't happen. They had a couple of scenes together, a couple of the sex scenes together, and the scenes were okay, but it really didn't elicit really any reaction from me. It was just kind of like, okay, this is kind of your standard scenes. Let's go. I mean, pretty much about 150 pages into this thing, I was ready for it to be done. I didn't like it. And let's see. Oh yeah. So even when they find out that Raymond is not actually a castle builder and the actual castle builder is there, he ignores the advice of the castle builder and insists on building the curtain wall in the winter, even though the castle builder tells him many reasons why it won't work. And I'm thinking, why is he doing this? It's just wasting time and money. Why are you doing this? Because apparently Raymond's in a real big hurry to make sure Juliana's protected and, you know, things like that. But the castle builder's telling him, you can't do this. It's going to fall down. And guess what happens at the very end of the book? The wall falls down. It's not completely built or anything. And so Raymond says, okay, fine, we'll let the castle builder actually do it. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no shit. He told you several times that this was going to fall down. It's not properly built. And yet Raymond keeps going along with it anyway. And he tells the serfs to do it too. And the serfs, they like Raymond, so they're going to go do what he says. Oh my goodness. Ugh. I think one of the few things I did like was Raymond's interaction with Juliana's daughters. That was they were very sweet, you know. The kids are very sweet, and those interactions were nice. But that's about it. They introduced a lot of characters that pretty much they don't really serve much of a purpose other than to be there or to have one or two key moments that she probably couldn't figure out who else could do, you know, of the existing characters who could do this. She's like, no, I'll add a new character in. And there was a lot of material that this book, I think, written by a different person or written by her now, could have been so much better, because the premise, Raymond had gone off to the Crusades and was captured by the Saracens, made a slave, and, you know, basically broken to be a slave because they basically tortured him until, you know, he decided he'd rather be a slave than die. And, you know, he has a big problem with that, but the way they go about it is stupid in the book. But anyway, they could have done some cool things with that, some cool things with Juliana's whole situation, and it just fell flat, and it sucked. So, yeah. I just finished reading this literally right before I did this review, so it's fresh in my mind. It's not good. Read Candle in the Window if you want to read her first book. Don't bother getting the sequel. There was not another sequel after this, and I can understand why now, because it seemed like she set it up to have another character be the next person in this, and I see why it didn't go. It was not good, and I feel bad because I do like Christina Dodd, but this book was about 21 years old, and it's not good. So yeah. Hopefully you found this helpful. So you know not to get this one. And I'll be doing more romance novel reviews soon. I'm still working on George R.R. Martin's Dance with Dragons. Again, that's going to take a long time, so I'm going to be doing a bunch of romance novels in between. I'm probably going to read something not by Christina Dodd next, just so that I can have a palate cleanser. Because what I'm trying to do with Christina Dodd is work from her earliest stuff up, so I get a better sense of quality going up. And so I'll probably read something by somebody else first in the meantime, and then I'll keep on with all my Christina Dodd books. So yeah, I hope you like this, and you know, if you like my book, like my reviews, you can go ahead and like them or subscribe if you want to see more. I don't have a consistent update schedule because it takes me varying times to read books, but I definitely appreciate your support, and I will see you next time. Bye.